Isadora Duncan always wanted to do.
Dearest Sasha, how I wish you could come here from Berlin. I have taken a studio by the sea and could always give you a divan where you could recline and I would dance for you. Can't you come? I need you to help me write my book, to bring money to continue my school. They write me there without food or fuel in Moscow.
Dear Isadora, you know you will never finish that book. You are not a writer.
Dear Sasha, we ought to have a child together, you and I, with your writing skills and my beauty.
Isadora, dear, I fear I must give you the same answer that George Bernard Shaw gave you. What if the child had your writing skills and my body?
Sasha, dear, I am always ready to believe in a miracle, a new myth, since the Bolshevik one didn't turn out. Dearest Sasha, I kiss you 1,000 times and wish with all my heart you could come here. We could walk by the sea, or perhaps not in a little boat, and sail toward the rising sun.
Isadora Duncan is dead, strangled by her own long scarf which caught under the wheels of a car. Just visited the boardwalk apartment that she took where we were to work together. The waves sullenly dash against the rocks. The stupidity and senselessness of it all. Is there a lesson to be learned from all this?
From Fedya, I learned the simplicity of geometry and the complications of trigonometry. He was very good at that, became a newspaper lithographer, and pretty much dropped out of the movement. From most, I learned to speak. From Brady to read. From Sasha to work and suffer. And from Ben to enjoy myself and suffer. So how did all this prepare me for living my life?
Now, you put everything, my work too, into living your life. I even gave you that title. Sometimes you didn't think about what that left or didn't leave others.
That's not true, Sasha, and it's not fair either. Your books were magnificent. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist, The Bolshevik Myth, and all the others.
And who reads my books today?
Well, what could I do? You were in prison. My heart was there with you.
Don't feel sorry for me. I knew what I did and forgiven. I don't want to be.
Sasha!
Don't treat me like a kid. I died in jail. Who remembers my crime? What did you do?
For a shortening of your sentence. It was at his factory where all the trouble had started. That great humanitarian. Think he cared about the common man?
Only if the criminal atones for his crime and renounces violence. Goddamn bastard.
So what was I to do? I spoke out. For that I was imprisoned myself for a year. Then in 1895 I went to Vienna to study nursing, enrolling as a student under the name Mrs. E.G. Brady, which I sort of was at that point. One of my teachers was a fellow named Sigmund Freud.
I understand Dr. Freud, like George Bernard Shaw, now regards Benito Mussolini as a hero of culture.
Italy's such a beautiful country. Minus Mussolini. Then I managed a troupe of Russian actors who were stranded in New York after the 1905 revolution.
You called yourself E.G. Smith at that point.
That's true. Well, they were so grateful, they gave a benefit, from which we started my magazine, Mother Earth. And when you came out of prison, Sasha, I made you the editor.
While you and Mr. Reitman, oh, excuse me, Dr. Reitman, were off on one of your speaking tours?
Well, who knows when I'll have another speaking tour now. So what shall I list under occupation? How about maybe nursing or speech giving, speaking?
Well, you might mention that ice cream parlor in Worcester, Mass, or even the time you tried street walking, the oldest profession.
don't laugh. Prostitutes were the only ones who would take me in after McKinley's assassination. Now, if I do get back to America, I have an offer to go on the vaudeville stage for $2,000 a week. What do you think of that, Sasha?
Well, that's just where America finds its heroes these days, on the vaudeville stage and in the movies, particularly in California.
Here's a letter from Roger Baldwin. Dear E.G., I certainly urge you most strongly not to consider the vaudeville offer. I know the kind of ballyhoo that promoters would surround you with, but I hope they're dressed when they do it.
Okay, folks, it's the Ever Radical Roadshow. See America's most famous D4T. Remember Mad Johann Most? Remember Isadora Duncan's Barefoot Act? Now catch Red Emma and her Anarchist Act. Margaret Leach will now recite for you her prize-winning poem. Don't do it, Maggie.
I am oh so sorry that our president is dead. And everybody's sorry, so my father said. And the horrid man who killed him is sitting in his cell. And I'm glad that Emma Goldman doesn't work at this hotel.
Yes, indeed, Emma Goldman is a witch. If she doesn't eat little children, it's only because she kills them off before they're born. Think about that. Men, do you want your wives to leave you? Then read this pamphlet. And she lectures on subversive authors like Ibsen and his doll's house. Read this pamphlet. Free love, only 5 cents. See her come and lecturing on crowned heads and manufacturing bombs.
In fact, the opposite is true. I haven't the slightest interest in crowned heads with nothing inside them, and I work against the manufacture of bombs.
See and hear Emma lecturing on dictatorship, right and left, the collapse of German culture, modern religious hysteria, the menace of war, and the universal muddleheadedness of the intelligentsia.
Think of all those people in America working to get me a visa. Roger Baldwin and the American Civil Liberties Union, together with
Sinclair Lewis,
Sherwood Anderson,
Elmer Rice,
A.J. Musty,
John Dewey,
Corliss Lamont,
John Haynes Holmes, and even Eugene O'Neill and Norman Thomas have all spoken up for you, E.G.
and dear Mabel Carver Crouch, and a host of others. And what do I do? Off in this remote fishing village named Saint-Tropez from early morning till late at night. When I was deported to Russia, I dreamed I would go there and organize the Russian Friends of American Freedom.
Which Lenin would only permit as supervised by the Bolsheviks, of course.
I would never work within the confines of the state. And I'd marry an American and come back in triumph to the only place in the world where I'd ever almost felt at home, America.
Then they changed the law so even marriage couldn't repatriate the divorcee. E.g., you can't go home again because America doesn't want you. Want proof? Here's a cable from Roger Baldwin. Dear E.g., a U.S. visa apparently will not be issued unless you will agree not to discuss political questions.
What?
Either on the platform or in the press.
Dear Roger, I can't consent to that. How could I treat literary or dramatic themes without reference to the forces that gave them their strongest impetus, politics? I can't buy my re-entry to America that way. Doesn't it look as if the Department of Labor were just inventing new conditions in order to create a convenient excuse to back out? Or are they afraid to hear me speak on my convictions?